Hey girls, it's not really Thursday. It's Friday. I had prom last night. I have a million things this week. I have a really important wedding I have to go to. I have tons of grad parties. So I know I have a bunch of challenges I have to do. I have to talk in an accent, I'm pretty sure. I have to play a rock song in public. But I'm going to do all of those things for my next video because I just kind of want to read in this video, do something simple just because I have a lot going on right now. But just quickly, Delaney, I rolled you, and your challenge wow, I speak really well. This should be fun listening to me read. Your challenge is to find something that you think in Harry Potter was a mistake and explain to us why. Like, you know what I mean? Like something that just didn't sit right with you in Harry Potter because well, I love the series. I can't really think of anything that I love more than Harry Potter except like my family. Um Maybe my friends are probably on equal level with Harry Potter. There are one or two things in it that I read them and I was just like, this doesn't seem right. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't seem like it belongs in Harry Potter. So find something that you don't think is right in Harry Potter and share it with us. So, okay, I'm going to read to you. I'm starting, I feel like it's obvious what I'm going to read just because I'm such a Snape groupie. But I'm reading from the chapter The Prince's Tale. And I'm starting in the part where Dumbledore and Snape first meet because Snape has revealed the information um, to Voldemort about that Lily's son is like the gonna be the one to defeat him after he heard the prophecy by Professor Trelawney. So I'm gonna start there, and I really like this chapter, so I might just read till the end of the chapter because it's kind of my favorite chapter. It's a couple pages, so feel free to turn it off whenever you like. No hard feelings. Feel free to just stop. And if I mess up along the way, feel free to laugh at me. Okay. The corridor dissolved, and the scene took a little longer to reform. Harry seemed to fly through shiftless spaces and colors until his surroundings solidified again, and he stood on a hilltop, forlorn and cold in the darkness, the wind whistling through the branches of a few leafless trees. The adult Snape was panting, turning on the spot, his wand gripped tightly in his hand, waiting for something, or for someone. His fear infected Harry too, even though he knew that he could not be harmed, and he looked over his shoulder, wondering what it was that Snape was waiting for. Then a blinding, jagged jet of white light flew through the air. Harry thought of lightning, but Snape had dropped to his knees, and his wand had flown out of his hand. "Don't kill me!" "That was not my intention." Any sound of Dumbledore apparating had been drowned by the sound of the wind in the branches. He stood before Snape with his robes whipping around him, and his face was illuminated from below in the light cast by his wand. "Well, Severus, what message does Lord Voldemort have for me?" "No, no message. I'm here on my own account." Snape was wringing his hands. He looked a little mad, with his straggling black hair flying around him. I come with a warning. No, a request, please." Dumbledore flicked his wand. Though leaves and branches still flew around the night air around them, silence fell on the spot where he and Snape faced each other. What request could a Death Eater make of me? The prophecy, the prediction, Trelawney. "Ah, yes," said Dumbledore. "How much did you relay to Lord Voldemort?" "Everything. Everything I heard," said Snape. "That's why it is the reason he thinks it means Lily Evans." "The prophecy did not refer to a woman," said Dumbledore. "It spoke of a boy born at the end of July." "You know what I mean. He thinks it means her son. He is going to hunt her down, kill them all." "If she means so much to you," said Dumbledore, "surely Lord Voldemort will spare her. Could you not ask for mercy for the mother in exchange for the son?" I have asked him." "You disgust me," said Dumbledore, and Harry had never heard so much contempt in his voice. Snape seemed to shrink a little. "You do not care, then, about the deaths of her husband and child? They can die as long as you have what you want?" Snape said nothing, but merely looked up at Dumbledore. "Hide them all, then," he croaked. "Keep her, them, safe, please." "And what will you do me in return, Severus?" "In return?" Snape gaped at Dumbledore, and Harry expected him to protest, but after a long moment he said, "Anything." The hilltop faded, and Harry stood in Dumbledore's office, and something was making a terrible sound, like a wounded animal. Snape was slumped forward in a chair, and Dumbledore was standing over him, looking grim. After a moment or two, Snape raised his face, and he looked like a man who had lived 100 years of misery since leaving the wild hilltop. I thought you were going to keep her safe." "She and James put their faith in the wrong person," said Dumbledore. "Rather like you, Severus. Weren't you hoping that Lord Voldemort would spare her?" Snape's breathing was shallow. "Her boy survives," says Dumbledore. With a tiny jerk of the head, Snape seemed to flick off an irksome fly. "Her son lives. He has her eyes. Precisely her eyes." You remember the shape and color of Lily Evans' eyes, I am sure. Don't, bellowed Snape. Dead. Gone. Is that remorse, Severus? I wish I were dead. And what use would that be to anyone, said Dumbledore coldly. If you loved Lily Evans, if you truly loved her, then your way forward is clear. Snape seemed to peer through the haze of pain, and Dumbledore's words appeared to take a long time to reach him. What do you mean? You know how and why she died. Make sure it was not in vain. Help me protect Lily's son. He doesn't need protection. The Dark Lord is gone. The Dark Lord will return, and Harry Potter will be in terrible danger when he does. There was a long pause, and slowly Snape regained control of himself, mastered his own breathing. At last he said, very well, very well. But never, never tell Dumbledore. This must be between us. Swear it. I cannot bear, especially Potter's son. I want your word. My word, Severus? That I shall never reveal the best of you? Dumbledore sighed, looking down into Snape's ferocious, anguished face. If you insist. The office dissolved, but reformed instantly. Snape was pacing up and down in front of Dumbledore. Mediocre, arrogant as his father, a determined rule-breaker, delighted to find himself famous, attention-seeking, and impertinent. You see what you expect to see, Severus, said Dumbledore, without raising his eyes from a copy of Transfiguration today. Other teachers report that the boy is modest, likable, and reasonably talented. Personally, I find him an engaging child. Dumbledore turned a page and said, without looking up, keep your eye on Quirrell, won't you? A whirl of color, and now everything darkened, and Snape and Dumbledore stood a little apart in the entrance hall, while the last stragglers from the Yule Ball passed them on their way to bed. Well, murmured Dumbledore. Karkaroff's mark is darkening too. He is panicking. He fears retribution. You know how much help he gave the Ministry after the Dark Lord fell. Snape looked sideways at Dumbledore's crooked-nosed profile. Karkaroff intends to flee if the dark mark burns. Does he? Said Dumbledore softly, as Fleur Delacour and Roger Davies came giggling in from the grounds. And are you tempted to join him? No, said Snape, his black eyes on Fleur's and Roger's, retreating the figures. I am not such a coward. No, agreed Dumbledore. You are a braver man by far than Igor Karkaroff. You know, I sometimes think we sort too soon. He walked away, leaving Snape looking stricken. And now Harry stood in the headmaster's office yet again. It was night time, and Dumbledore sagged sideways in a throne-like chair behind the desk, apparently semi-conscious. His right hand dangled over the side, blackened and burned. Snape was muttering incantations, pointing his wand at the wrist of the hand, while with his left hand he tipped a goblet full of thick golden potion down Dumbledore's throat. After a moment or two, Dumbledore's eyelids fluttered and opened. Why, said Snape, without preamble. Why did you put on that ring? It carries a curse. Surely you realize that. You even touch it. Why even touch it? Marvolo Gaunt's ring lay on the desk before Dumbledore. It was cracked, and the sword of Gryffindor lay beside it. Dumbledore grimaced. I was a fool, sorely tempted. Tempted by what? Dumbledore did not answer. It is a miracle you managed to return here. Snape sounded furious. That ring carries a curse of extraordinary power. To contain it is all we can hope for. I've trapped the curse in one hand for the time being. Dumbledore raised his black and useless hand, and examined it with the expression of one being shown an interesting curio. You have done very well, Severus. How long do you think I have? Dumbledore's tone was conversational. He might have been asking for a weather forecast. Snape hesitated and then said, I cannot tell. Maybe a year. There is no halting such a spell forever. It will spread eventually. It is the sort of curse that strengthens over time. Dumbledore smiled. The news he had less than a year to live seemed a matter of little or no concern to him. I am fortunate, extremely fortunate, that I have you, Severus. If you had only summoned me a little earlier, I might have been able to do more, buy more time, said Snape furiously. He looked down at the broken ring and the sword. Did you think that breaking the ring would break the curse? Something like that. I was delirious, no doubt, said Dumbledore. With an effort, he strengthened himself in his chair. Well, really, this makes matters much more straightforward. Snape looked utterly perplexed. Dumbledore smiled. I refer to the plan Lord Voldemort is revolving around me. His plan to have the poor Malfoy boy murder me. Snape sat down in the chair Harry had so often occupied, across the desk from Dumbledore. Harry could tell that he wanted to say more on the subject of Dumbledore's cursed hand, but the other held in polite refusal to discuss the matter further. Scowling, Snape said, The Dark Lord does not expect Draco to succeed. This is merely punishment for Lucius's recent failures, slow torture for Draco's parents, while they watch him fail and pay the price. In short, the boy has had a death sentence pronounced upon him as surely as I have, said Dumbledore. Now I should have thought the natural successor of the job, once Draco fails, is yourself. There was a short pause. That, I think, is the Dark Lord's plan. Lord Voldemort foresees a moment in the near future when he will not need a spy at Hogwarts? He believes the school will soon be in his grasp, yes. And if it does fall into his grasp, said Dumbledore, almost, it seemed, as an aside, I have your word that you will do all in your power to protect the students of Hogwarts? Snape gave a stiff nod. Good. Now then, your first priority will be to discover what Draco is up to. A frightened teenage boy is dangerous to others as well as to himself. Offer him help and guidance. He ought to accept. He likes you. Much less since his father has lost favor. Draco blames me. He thinks that I have usurped Lucius's position. All the same, try. I am concerned less for myself than for accidental victims of whatever schemes might occur to the boy. Ultimately, of course, there is only one thing to be done if we are to save him from Lord Voldemort's wrath. Snape raised his eyebrows, and his tone was sardonic as he asked, Are you intending to let him kill you? Certainly not. You must kill me. There was a long silence, broken only by an odd clicking noise. Fawkes the Phoenix was gnawing a bit of cuttlebone. Would you like me to do it now? Asked Snape, his voice heavy with irony. Or would you like a few moments to compose an epitaph? Oh, not quite yet, said Dumbledore, smiling. I dare say the moment will present itself in due course. Given what has happened tonight, he indicated his withered hand, we can be sure that it will happen within a year. If you don't mind dying, said Snape roughly, why not let Draco do it? That boy's soul is not yet so damaged, said Dumbledore. I would not have it ripped apart on my account. And my soul, Dumbledore? Mine? You alone know whether it will harm your soul to help an old man avoid pain and humiliation, said Dumbledore. I ask this one great favor of you, Severus, because death is coming for me as surely as the cuddly cannons will finish bottom of the year's league. I confess I should prefer a quick, painless exit to the protracted and messy affair it will be if, for instance, Greyback is involved. I hear Voldemort has recruited him, or dear Bellatrix, who likes to play with her food before she eats it. His tone was light, but his blue eyes pierced Snape's as they had frequently pierced Harry's, as though the soul they discovered was visible to him. At last, Snape gave another curt nod. Dumbledore seemed satisfied. Thank you, Severus. The office disappeared, and now Snape and Dumbledore were strolling together in the deserted castle grounds by twilight. We're going to skip ahead, because I only have a couple minutes left, and I don't want to miss the last part. Okay, we're skipping to the point. Precisely. If there comes a time when Lord Voldemort stops sending that snake forth to do his bidding, but keeps it safe beside him under magical protection, then I think it will be safe to tell Harry. Tell him what? Dumbledore took a deep breath and closed his eyes. Tell him that on the night Lord Voldemort tried to kill him, when Lily cast her own life between them as a shield, the killing curse rebounded upon Lord Voldemort, and a fragment of Voldemort's soul was blasted apart from the whole, and latched itself onto the only living soul left in the collapsing building. Part of Lord Voldemort lives inside Harry, and it is that which gives him the power of speech with snakes, and a connection with Lord Voldemort's mind that he has never understood. And while the fragment of the soul, unmissed by Voldemort, remains attached to and protected by Harry, Lord Voldemort cannot die. Harry seemed to be watching the two men from one end of a long tunnel. They were so far away from him, and their voices echoing strangely in his ears. So the boy must die, asked Snape quite calmly. And Voldemort himself must do it, Severus. That is essential. Another long silence. Then Snape said, I thought all these years that we were protecting him for her, for Lily. We have protected him because it has been essential to teach him, to raise him, to let him try his strength, said Dumbledore, his eyes still tight shut. Meanwhile, the connection between them grows even stronger, a parasitic growth. Sometimes I have thought he suspects it himself. If I know him, he will have arranged matters so that when he does set out to meet his death, it will truly mean the end of Voldemort. Dumbledore opened his eyes. Snape looked horrified. You have kept him alive so that he can die at the right moment? Don't be shocked, Severus. How many men and women have you watched die? Lately, only those of whom I could not save, said Snape. He stood up. You have used me. Meaning? I spied for you and lied for you, put myself in mortal danger for you. Everything was supposed to be to keep Lily Potter's son safe. Now you tell me that you have been raising him like a pig for slaughter? But this is touching, Severus, said Dumbledore seriously. Have you grown to care for the boy, after all? For him, shouted Snape. Expecto Patronum. From the tip of his wand bursted the silver doe. She landed on the office floor, bounding once across the office and soaring out of the window. Dumbledore watched her fly away, and as her silvery glow faded, he turned back to Snape, and his eyes were full of tears. After all this time, always, said Snape. So, that's my favorite chapter. Okay, guys, Nina, I'll see you later today. Bye. Oh, it didn't turn off. That's awkward. And bye.